Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sikich Live Salesforce Edition. Today, we're talking about wealth advisors and registered investment advisors, also known as RIAs, processes in CRM, and how to make those processes smarter, better, and faster. Sikich expert, returning guest, and partner Matt Mountain will join us in a minute. But before we get to that, I would be remiss to not mention to like and subscribe so that you get these notifications when Sikich goes live on Tuesdays and Thursdays each week with a new and exciting topic about ERP, IT managed services, security CRM, and so much more. Next Thursday, we have an exciting topic on a little bit on Sikich culture and working in this new normal environment. So we're really excited about that. That's going to be something a little bit different for us to have on Sikich Live. Also, don't forget, don't be shy on Sikich Live. If you're in the chat right now, ask a question about something you want to know. That's why we're here. That's why we're live. Let's bring Matt on. Hey, Matt, how are you? Thanks for
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming back to Sikich Live.
Thank you for having me.
I guess you like me enough to come back for a third or fourth time now?
Well, it was a very nice intro, but you used a word around expert that I think you were misleading people, but that's okay.
Oh, I don't know about that. Well, thanks so much for being here with us, Matt. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate your expertise that you bring to the table for all of our attendees and viewers. So I'm going to jump right into it because we got a lot to talk about today. We're talking registered investment advisors. We're talking a little bit about wealth advisors, and that's kind of the specific role that we might be speaking to today. So let's talk about how they use CRM. And how they are using CRM right now.
Yeah, so there's a big spectrum. You've got some organizations that are using it to track, contacts and phone numbers and maybe an activity here or there, all the way up to those firms that are tracking it for a lot of things around how do I handle a standardized process of moving money for a client or onboarding a client. With an A client, I need to see them every 6 months, and a B client every year. How do I track that and make sure I'm providing the value of service that I should be? So there's a wide variety on how we see it being deployed within Salesforce among RIAs and other type of advisory firms. But the ones that we see that are really trying to grow are the ones that are using the technology to scale processes. So I don't have to remember to do something. I don't have to call you to do something. The system tells you. And once I click the button and save it, I'm done. So those, that's why I say there's a wide variety in terms of what's being done.
Sure. And so why are they not using the custodial system to manage their clients' financial accounts and planning?
Yeah. So, the custodial systems, whether they're working with Schwab or TD or Fidelity or what have you, those are very good at, my broker's with Morgan Stanley. So I can, click on my app on my phone. I can see everything. They're great for that. From a CRM standpoint, when you think about an advisor is focused on probably maintaining their clients, meaning, am I providing the right level of service? Growing their book. So with existing clients, do they have a 401k over here that I may want to influence them to bring it over to me or bring on new clients? So when you think about tracking all of the touch points, it's hard to do in those custodial systems because some of these firms, let's just say a firm works with, let's just pick the three I mentioned, Schwab, TD, and Fidelity. Well, you got data, you got assets in all three of those systems. So do you have to log into all three systems to find out when was last time you talked to John Smith? And that's where those systems, they do what they do well, but from a day-to-day interaction and really providing that value, that's where they, unfortunately, they're not as strong.
Sure. So Salesforce has, a really great product out there. And lot of the wealth advisors, RIAs, they've been looking for maybe some new changes there to fully implement Salesforce. What are some of those changes that clients have wanted to implement?
Yeah, so Salesforce, a little history. Salesforce used to have what's called a wealth management template, and about 4 years ago, they came out with the Financial Services Cloud, which is geared towards multiple disciplines within financial services, specifically, the wealth RIA, banking, insurance, and they keep building out that data model. So specific to wealth, which we have a lot of background in, one of the things that Salesforce has always been very good at is activity management. So when I complete an activity, I want to see who I did it with, maybe a person in a company or a person in the household or things like that. And for those, with all the new regulations that are coming out for wealth advisors, they need to now make sure that they're hitting a certain level of service that they're providing. And so as part of that not only means touching base with clients, but when you think about activities, an activity could be an email, could be a phone call, could be a meeting. Well, if you want to meet with your clients every 6 months, let's just say, well, a meeting could be different than a phone call. So I might have just talked to them a month ago to see if they want tickets to the tennis tournament. Well, does that really count as a meeting? No. So how do you track that? And what we've heard from a lot of clients is that activity management is great to track, and we want to see every touch point we had. But these meetings that are so critically important, we want to have those broken out separately. So I can see the last time I met with them around their investment advisory, around tax planning, retirement planning, things like that, and be able to track that data separately so that I can look at it and say, okay, I met with John Smith 6 months ago. It's time to schedule the next call. Here's what we talked about, and I need to make sure I've done all my work since our last meeting so that I'm prepared and so that I can provide that higher level of service. So it's really, that's been probably the biggest thing, is breaking out the meetings from the activities, but still be able to report on both.
So how are you getting requirements on this meeting functionality?
So it was interesting is that, as we work with so many of these advisors, they all have requirements, and we started to see some commonality. Now, where we don't see commonality, for example, is onboarding. Some firms have 3 steps, some have 27. Some always assign it to this person, some do dynamic assignment. So I say that tongue in cheek because that's an example. Everybody does onboarding, and quite honestly, they all do it similarly, but they all want it a little bit different, okay? But when it came time for this meeting, it was the same thing, is that we got a variety of different requirements for that. In terms, some people want a very sophisticated form that they can fill out as they go meet with prospects, or as if they meet with their clients every 6 months or what have you, where others, it'd be nice to have. So what we did was we built some functionality that sits on top of FSC. So if you think about it, somebody buys FSC and then we pick up our template and drop it in. And it sits right on top of FSC. And what I did is, as we started building this, I got with my broker and I bribed him to meet with me. My 6 months it wasn't time yet. No, I'm kidding. And I showed it to him and he said, wow, that's pretty good. He said, because I don't have near that functionality, and he works for a big firm. And so he gave me some more requirements. So we built a few of those in, and then I took it to a friend of mine, and a friend of mine works for a different firm. And I showed it to him. He said, boy, that's nice, but boy, if we could have this. And then luckily I have some friends, which some people are shocked at that, but regardless, and I took it to the friends of mine and said, what else would you want? And the feedback was unbelievable as to what they were saying. And I was kicking myself saying, why didn't we do this a year ago? And go out to these firms and say, what would make your job easier on your periodic meetings with your clients? And again, the idea is I need to find data quicker with less clicks where it can hit me in the face as to what I need to do. So when I go into this meeting, I'm prepared and I look polished as can be. And so just as I started going out and talking to them, and I told them all, I said, thank you, but I'm coming back to you. Let us build this out, and then I'm coming back for more requirements. And the whole idea is just give me some requirements from a day-to-day on just some of your pain points as you see what we're building and how can we build that. And then for every client going forward, we just, again, pick it up and drop it in. And so we're not trying to standardize onboarding, money movement, those kinds of things, but the whole meeting process. I mean, everybody does it. Everybody needs to track it. And what we're also doing is then taking it and displaying it. So of your A clients, show me clients that I have not talked about tax in 9 months. And boom, there's a list. Wow. Or show me the ones that I haven't touched on their financial planning. And so we're going to be able, because we're tracking that information by each meeting, we're going to be able to expose that data very easily to advisors and really help them with the scheduling. So that's really, been a big focus of mine in terms of just understanding from a day-to-day standpoint, all the prep work for these meetings, all the follow-up from these meetings, and how can we make it easier for them.
Wow, that is really neat. I love the idea of accelerators. Yeah. That kind of drag and drop. It can work in so many different environments because this is what people need. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that Salesforce has a program like that to help us get that into as many of these financial service companies as possible. But just thinking about my own meeting, sometimes I'm like, hey, what did I talk to about that person? It'd be nice to bring up all that data. I think that's so cool. So where do you see this accelerator going in the future?
Well, so when you think about it, if you're preparing for a client meeting, and you're an advisor and you're going to go meet John Smith because it's been 6 months, and you want to be able, when you create that meeting record, to be able to see what did we discuss the last time, the previous time, maybe, last 3 or 4 meetings. I just want to be able to read it real quick and get a history of it and not have to dig, but just click, boom, there it is. And then I want to be able to see what were the tasks that came out of the last meeting. Maybe I got to call their attorney about something. Maybe I need to, change the ownership of one account. But what are those tasks that came out of the meeting 6 months ago? And did we do it? Okay. And then prior to the meeting, if the meeting is going to be in 2 weeks, there's always standard work that you have to do to prepare for a meeting. So we want to be able then to assign out tasks to people. So this person needs to consolidate all the financials into a performance report. And this person needs to confirm the meeting room. And this person, just the standard things that need to be done. But then also when you think about the advisor sitting down with that person, we don't want them to just stare at their computer the whole time and not look at the client. But we want to give them the ability to enter data into Salesforce very easily. So the key thing is we don't want them to do a lot of clicking. We want them to be on one page where they can, as they're talking to somebody, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I can just real quick and come back to you, that kind of thing. And so what we're also doing is taking data within the financial services cloud across their profile, the husband and wife profile, all the information about where they work and, their income and other things, plus their goals, plus their financial accounts, plus their held away assets, plus, and to put it all on one page so that the advisor can now scroll up and down and just enter data real quick. And it's saved throughout financial services cloud. Because the last thing you want is somebody to go, oh, that's a great point. Hold that thought for a second. And then they spend 15, 20 seconds trying to, monkey around with different clicks to get to the right page. So it's really around consolidating that so that they've got one place to go. But the key thing is, if we're going to enter it, it needs to also be replicated, if you will, into the correct object. So we're basically creating a new page, a new object in Salesforce that can update data in multiple objects so that everything is centralized. Now, where does it go after that? So, we're getting some requirements. Some of the things that people have asked for aren't as realistic, such as straight-through processing, where I can put the client's information into Salesforce and hit a button and have it automatically go to Schwab and create the account. There are products out there that do that, and I'm not sure that's something we want to take on. But I come from a industrial engineering background, so I'm all about automation and streamlining. And so to me, my motto has always been, for every minute I spend putting data into Salesforce, it needs to save me 2. And it can save me 2 by surfacing the data when I need it, by not having to call somebody. The system just notifies them they have to do something, by being able to find information quicker. And every person, that's different, every role. But it's really spending more time with the advisors and their support team and understanding what would help them with less clicks. And again, that 1 for 2 model. And it doesn't matter what organization you go into. If you think about it, for every minute I put it in, it's got to save me 2. You're not going to have an adoption problem. And we work with, I periodically get calls from organizations saying, hey, we need more training. And I say, okay, well, let's talk about, nice to meet you. And can you show me your environment? And let's talk about what you want. And what we find is that they haven't even thought about the 1 for 2. They want to play Big Brother and just watch them. Are you doing the calls and all that? But what we're doing with this accelerator is really turning it up on its head and saying, we're going to get the adoption. We're going to make it so easy for you to use this so that you can't live without it. And that's the key to a CRM. So that's really the background of why we're doing this, is less clicks, more automation, and just make everyone's life easier so they go, I can't live without this. So sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, if you have any questions about this accelerator, the Financial Services Cloud, please make sure to reach out, www.sikich.com, straight into my LinkedIn or into Matt's, of course. Happy to help there. Thanks so much, Matt, for being back. I don't have anything else for you today.
Okay.
Next week, we're talking about Salesforce for Outlook. This is a hot topic requested by our viewers, so we're excited to bring that to you next Tuesday, right after the Labor Day break. And don't forget to like and subscribe, like I always say, so that you get these notifications for when we are live on Tuesdays and Thursdays of each week. Thanks again, Matt, and we'll see you guys all next time.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Yeah, of course.